Welcome again. I hope you've been looking forward to this show as much as I have. A fellow that's set, well, not one record, but several surely. In fact, I've been trying to find exactly what all-time records are, and I can't quite pin it down because all-time records do go back a hell of a long way. But so does this guy's unbeaten run, or it did do. Sadly, it's come to an end now, but that's all the more reason why we should celebrate Jake Wright's phenomenal sequence for Oxford United and particularly Sheffield United. Welcome to the studio, Jake.
Thank you.
Good of you to come in. You're a debut boy tonight.
Yep.
Alongside, well, I thought we've got to balance the sofa off. A blade versus an owl, and it had to be a defender as well. Not your first visit. It's almost like your front room. Jon Newsome. Good of you to come in again, John.
Thanks for inviting me.
And of course, the Owl's perspective on the show coming tonight. But of course, we've got to start with you, Jake, and say hearty congratulations on behalf of all the Blades fans that I know will be watching tonight. You kept very, very quiet during this, didn't you? Unbeaten in 38 league starts,
yeah.
Oxford and then Sheffield United. I think 32 of those were with the Blades. All good things come to an end, eh?
Yeah, obviously I was gutted when we lost against Norwich. It was a game we dominated as well and should have got something out of, but like you said, it came to an end, so hopefully I can start another run now. You
were very, very quiet during that spell.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't recall hearing you do an interview or reading about you doing an interview during that time. Was that deliberate?
Well, yeah, it's something you don't want to talk about. You know, we're doing well as a team, and I wanted that to continue, and didn't want to jinx it by talking about a record. And obviously, the lads were doing brilliant as well, so we just wanted to continue and carry on our good form.
It must have been unreal, though, as you look at that. I mean, John, have you ever had anything remotely like a sequence resembling that in your career?
I'd love to say yes, wouldn't I?
but I'd say
no. No, unfortunately not. But yeah, phenomenal, isn't it? And I can appreciate, you know, the superstition in football. You know, it's massive, isn't it? You know, it's all over. People probably don't realise it as much as it is. So yeah, I can understand why you didn't want to jinx it and you know, try and keep it going.
It seemed to be going on forever and ever. Did it reach a point where you'd forgotten what losing was like?
Yeah, well, yeah, try and put it to the back of my mind. You know, obviously winning is good habits and keeping it going, and the other lads liked it as well because they thought if I'm playing, we're not going to be losing. And I wasn't actually doing that much in the games. You know, the other players around me were doing really well. The two midfielders, the two other centre-halves, they were dominating the game. So it was just one of the things when I played, we were doing well. So we wanted to continue.
Did you ever find out where this stood in the record books at all?
Yeah, I think it broke it. I think it was 28 games. I think it was 28 appearances.
Yeah.
So mine was like 33 appearances, but 38 starts, I think. Yeah.
It's an all-time record
for Sheffield United. Yeah.
For Sheffield United, I'm just wondering across football as well. It's a very hard thing to check because players move from club to club, but you'd have to have played, you know, for the likes of Liverpool during their, you know, wonderful European days, or Manchester United equally, to come anywhere near that, wouldn't you? And even then, I don't think it's been done recently. But it's, as you say, you know, you've not wanted to heap the credit on yourself. You're part of a team effort there, and you come across as a quiet man off the pitch, and in some ways, you know, a calm, unobtrusive player on the pitch who does his job very, very tidily.
Yeah.
I mean, how would you describe your style on the field?
Yeah, obviously I try and talk a lot on the pitch, on organise and make sure lads around me are, you know, doing their job. But especially the formation we're playing, it suits me really well. You know, being in the middle of a three, just making sure that everyone else around me doing their job. And if we're organising and, you know, concentrating when we've got the ball, because a lot of the time last year and this year we've had the ball and been dominating games. So it's important that, you know, that we're defending right when they break through.
You're the guy that invariably just pops up in a timely way just to nip the danger in the bud, which requires a hell of a lot of concentration on your part to be that guy.
That's the plan sometimes, yeah.
That's the plan sometimes. Yeah, it's very impressive. I mean, just latterly though, a couple of times when tactical switches have been made, you've been the guy that's kind of had to make way. You know, it's a team game, so you accept it. You're a professional at 31 years of age, but nobody wants to come off it.
No, it's not like coming off frustration. But obviously, if we get the right result, that's all that counts. You know, we're looking to get 3 points, and you know, I came off against Sheffield Wednesday
and Wolves.
and Wolves,
yes.
and Wolves, and it's not started the game after against Nottingham Forest. So you know, obviously, I want to play every minute of every game. The gaffer sees things different and needs to make changes, and he's been doing things really well. So you know, I'm not going to complain. Just got to keep my head down and try to get back in the team.
There's competition all over now. Richard Stearman's going to come back to fitness at some stage. Cameron Vickers signed. So all of a sudden, what was a nailed-on place almost for you is something you have having to fight for all of a sudden.
No, it's never been guaranteed. I think last year we had 4 or 5 good centre halves, and you know, we're all fighting for 3 positions. I was just lucky enough to stay in the team. And then this year, you know, obviously I didn't start the season, missed the first 3 games. Stearman played, he got injured, and it was my chance to take it. And hopefully I'll be back in the team this weekend, you know, after the defeat against Nottingham Forest. If not, I'll keep training hard and hopefully get in the team for the week after. Yeah,
just a point about that. Been asked by Kevin Gage on Twitter today, raised a question, did one of these poll things about who do you reckon should be captain with Paul Coots obviously suspended, Billy Sharp, we don't know if he's fit or not, club captain, so who's going to lead the team? It's a job that you've had experience of doing.
Yeah.
You're not going to tell us, are you? But
it hasn't been said yet. We don't know the team till tomorrow. So obviously, if I'm captain, I'd love it. I've done it a few times for Sheffield United, obviously, and did it for 6 years at Oxford. So it's something I feel I can do, and you know, it's a part of my game. But if you ain't got the captain's armband, you know, it don't change what I do. Still try and organise and lead from the front.
The one really impressive thing about really the whole area that Kevin Gage raised when he was pontificating today about who would be captain is just how many leaders Sheffield United have. You're not short of contenders. There's yourself, possibly John Fleck, possibly Basham.
Yeah.
You know, there are a lot of players. Jack O'Connell.
Yeah.
There are guys that you would say, hey, oh yeah, he'd be a good captain. And has that been a strength of behind what you've achieved?
Yeah, definitely. There? I think, like I said before, you don't need the armband to be a leader, and I think we have got a lot of leaders in the changing rooms and in the squad. So if Cootie, you know, comes out, someone else will come in and step forward.
Is that something you noticed about the Blades? You know, it's unusual these days, I find, to identify more than sort of 1 or 2 natural leaders within a team. Whereas I thought there were always quite a few in teams, but less so now. Is that a fair comment or not?
Yeah, I think you're right. But I think if you listen to Chrissy Wilder, when I've heard him speak about his transfer targets and people he wants to bring into the club, it's as much about personality as it is about what they can do on the pitch, and he wants to get the right kind of person to fit into that already very good group of individuals. So you know, I suppose that's what he's trying to build on, isn't he? You know, the more leaders you've got out there, at times the better it can be.
Well, you know the manager as well as anybody, and you were nodding to that.
Yeah,
very
spot
point.
on. Yeah, got that. The gaffer's massive on personalities, team spirit, and bringing someone in who's, you know, he speaks to a lot of people before he brings someone in. They might be a really good player, but if they're not a good lad, they're not going to fit in our changing room. So it is massive on that. So that's spot on. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to come back to that point in a minute. But first of all, John, on the Owls, big weekend of Sheffield United v Ipswich, another great attraction at Bramall Lane. Sheffield Wednesday go to Bolton. Now, in my column this week, I had this down as a fixture that if I was an Owls fan, I'd be slightly concerned about. It just got that banana skin look to it. How do you see it?
Probably the same, really. You know, I talked about it in my column as well, that I think at the start of the season you'd have earmarked it as potentially an opportunity to go and get 3 points, but with the sort of like the stuttering start, as I've called it, so far this season, and then added to the fact that they knocked us out of the cup earlier in the year, you know, away at their ground. Yeah. It takes on that little bit of a nervous, edgy, or it can do if you don't approach it in the right way. But you know, I just like to think that they've come off the back of a decent, a good result against Leeds. Yeah. Confidence has hopefully risen within the camp. They've had a couple of weeks where they've been able to get lots of work done on the training ground, and that spirit's come back again. And realistically, you know, you've got to be looking at going and winning those games, haven't you? You know, away at Bolton, and if not, you're not going to end up in the areas at the end of the season that you aspire to be.
You wouldn't think so, but it's the Championship. You know, you can lose at Bolton and go and win at Derby. You know, it's just it's where it is at the end.
Yeah,
you know,
it is, yeah.
Rather than overreacting to one result or the other, which is what I did a column on today. Although I don't blame anybody for overreacting to the Derby defeat at Hillsborough. I've got to ask you about that from the other point of view. You know, how was that to play in, Joe?
Yeah, the best game, best atmosphere I've ever played in. You know, brilliant game. From the start, when we got there warming up, you know, the crowd were really loud. Sheffield Wednesday fans were really loud. As soon as the game kicked off, you know, the song they played before the game.
Hi ho, Silver Light. Hi ho,
Brilliant
Sheffield Wednesday.
atmosphere. And then obviously the crowd got silenced early on because of Flecky's goal, and we had momentum from there. And I think for 44 minutes, you know, we dominated the first half. They got the goal just before half time, and they came out for 10-15 minutes and did really well and got the equaliser. And then it was ridiculously loud there. You know, obviously I'd just come off when they scored, so sat just in front of the fans. But then luckily Duffy scored quite early on to, I think it was like a minute after, to you know, get us back on top. I
was thinking what a brave substitution it was, because you, a central defender, was brought off, and an attacking player comes on. And when you're 2-1, when you're leading by 2 goals
I
to
just
1.
think they'd had so much pressure that we needed to get a foot in the game, and the gaffer saw it as that we needed to put a forward player on, because we were defending and clearing the ball, but it was coming straight back, so they're going to score eventually. And obviously if they scored a minute later, but then Duffy's gone the other side and scored a brilliant goal.
Oh, fantastic.
I think it changed the shape as well, didn't it?
Yeah, it changed
the shape. To a 4. You know, I think Carlos had thrown João on half time, and he effectively was like a three up the top.
Yeah,
so it was all of a sudden it was like a 3 against 3 at the back, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You know, and I thought it was very clever of Chris that he saw that and thought, you know what, I'll jiggle it around to make us go to a 4, and then we've got 4 against 3. And that gives me another man up top, and it worked, didn't it?
Yeah, it did, and it worked against Wolves as well when he changed it in the second half.
I mean, that was a little bit different because they had 10 men, so we was 3 of us against 1 at the back. You know, so I'm always the one who's going to come out, if you like. There's, you know, Jack and Cameron or Jack and Basher, better athletes, so it makes more sense than playing.
You talked about team spirit earlier, and it's one of the cliches in the game. You could ask any manager or any player from any team in the country, and they'd all say glibly, "Oh, we've got a fantastic set of lads, great team spirit." So it's become a cliche, and it can't be the case everywhere. And yet you know that at Sheffield United it genuinely is. That's got to be very difficult to achieve that. Everybody glibly talks about it, but actually to achieve it is
I think obviously when the gaffer came in, there were a lot of people he needed to get rid of, and he did it and kept the core of players that he wanted here. And then he's brought in his own players he's done his homework on, you know, like I said before, what they're like as lads and the personalities, and he's built it from there. So obviously a lot of credit goes to him and the players he's brought in.
Including yourself?
Yeah, obviously I've known him since I was 19, so I've known him a long time, played for him at 3 different clubs, so he knows what I'm about and I know what he's about. So, you know, obviously when he rang up and got me from Oxford, you know, I was obviously buzzing to come here.
What's his secret then? In that respect, in putting these teams together and getting, you know, you're talking about a lot of egos, different personalities, getting them.
Well, he don't like bringing people in with big egos. You know, he brings hard-working players in who obviously got talent and technically really good, but first and foremost, they work 100% for everyone every day. And if they don't, then you know they get shown the door. I've been with him, and he's done that with players. And he'll bring someone else in. And if you don't, you know, stick to our morals and what we're about, then you won't be at the club for a long time.
But you look at this man management, and to me, looking in from the outside, there's no finer example than Leon Clark, who's had like 15 odd clubs. You know, he scored 2 goals against 2 former teams back to back, Sheffield Wednesday and Wolves. I asked him a question about that. He said, "Well, it's not unusual." He said, "Just look at how many clubs I've had. You know, to go back to back. I'm always playing a former club." But you know, he, for rightly or wrongly, has had a reputation of, because he's had so many, he must be an awkward player to manage, whatever. And yet Chris Wilder's bringing terrific form out of him at a high level.
Yeah, I think, you know, sometimes someone gets a bad reputation or a bad name for, you know, doing one thing wrong or something. Clark has been brilliant since he's come in. He gets on with all the lads. He's a massive character in the changing rooms. Yeah. Obviously he knew Nilly before as well, and the gaffer knows what he's about, and he's done the business for us since he came in. And even when he wasn't playing last year because he was injured, he was still brilliant in training in the changing rooms before the games. And it is a big character for us, and he's been really good.
He scored some really big goals for you. On the subject of goals, in terms of records, right? Okay.
This is a record I'm going to break, isn't it? Yeah. 10 years.
Well, yeah, I kind of researched this. Yeah, as a Football League player, you haven't scored.
We got 10 years, yeah.
10 years.
Yeah, I've had a few shots. That's about it in 10 years.
This goes back. Your only 2 career goals, I think, were for Halifax.
Yeah, 2 goals in 3 games. Then I'm going through a bit of a dry patch at the moment, but.
The total of all club appearances, 451 I've got, and just the 2 for Halifax. That was it in the conference. So, well, you're going to score sooner or later, aren't you?
We've been saying that for a few years. Yeah, I planned a few celebrations, but that's good job. I'm not a goal scorer in it.
I don't recall you having any opportunities in the games that I've seen, but
yeah, I had a good one last year. Should have scored last year.
Yeah.
Missed a bit of a sitter last year. Still getting stick for that now, but. Yeah.
So these celebrations that you're working on, any clues?
Nah, they're coming changed. I've had that long to plan it. Yeah.
They're out of date.
Yeah, they're out of date. Yeah.
Yeah. I hope I'm there on the day that you break your duck. I'm not doing this weekend's game because I'm doing Rotherham for Sky, but I'm definitely doing the Reading game. So put that one in the diary.
I'll try. Yeah.
The subject of team spirit, John. I mean, you had captaincy experience, etc. You know, what was the best group of lads that you played in your career? Do you remember a particular era, a particular team?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah?
I think, and it's something, if you listen to players, especially past players and, you know, lads who've played in successful teams, they always come, I always find that they come back to saying the same thing, that it was a good dressing room, you know, it was a good dressing room. And the best dressing room I played under or in was the one at Leeds United in the, you know, when I first went there, sort of like, you know, got asked to go up there by Howard and went and signed and just wanted to go and play football really, and found myself in the middle of this fantastic dressing room of not just good quality players but just really, really great characters. Everybody, a bit like Sheffield United really, everybody knew their job, everybody worked for each other. You know, the social side of the game then, you know, Gordon Strachan. I mean, Gordon Strachan inviting you out for dinner with his wife, you know, and you're a 20-year-old lad who's just signed for Leeds, and you just amazing. You know, make you feel welcome and a part of it and wanted, and that's a big thing for football. You know, I think, you know, you've just talked about Leon Clark, and I think confidence and feeling wanted and being a part of it, and the management of that is a massive part of football. And for me, you're halfway there when you've got that.
Well, you're talking about another manager there who was big on togetherness, camaraderie. Howard Wilkinson, Chris Wilder's another, and those sort of managers. Neil Warnock's excellent at this as well, obviously. Dave Bassett was. As you say, they're the ones that seem to...
Well, it's not a coincidence, is it, that, you know, over the last, 5 years, Neil Warnock has gone into football clubs that are, you know, looking down the barrel of a gun, and he's done a miraculous turnaround. And he's hardly bought any players, and he's not changed much about them, and so it can only be one thing, can't it? That he's got that dressing room working together and working as one.
It occurs to me that in his 3 years at Sheffield Wednesday, this is his 3rd season, I think Carlos Carvalho has been excellent at that as well. Yeah. Considering the quality of player he's brought in, he's managed to keep most happy, and in that group, you sense that they are together.
I think you're right, but I also think that it's easier to keep players happy when you're doing well, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know when you're you know, I've been when I was you know, at Sheffield Wednesday, and you know, you sat on the bench, but the team's winning.
Yeah.
You know, you're happy, aren't you? You're not happy. You're not playing. You want to play, but you can't go and knock on the gaffer's door and say, why aren't I playing? You know, because we won 3-1 on Saturday at wherever, and so it's a bit easier to keep it bubbling along when results are going, and you've got what I call a happy camp.
Yeah, I think we've got a happy camp here. Part 1's over, but I think I'm going to keep the same team for part 2 because it seems to be working somehow. I don't think there'll be a substitution. James Gregg will join us to round up everything else. There's a big game again in ice hockey this weekend. Lots of other stuff. One of our non-league teams is scoring for fun at the moment. 4 and 5 in every game. See you in 5 minutes.